Hi, John Lilly here from Junior Game Creators. Been inspired on this little follow along game creation session by two things. The idea actually came from one of our Junior Game Creator workshops, face-to-face workshops that we've held across the country over the summer holidays, but also by the Olympics. We're going to make a little Olympic clay pigeon shooting game for you to follow along to. So the first thing though is I'm just going to right click on our cat, and shift click as well sometimes works if the right click doesn't, and then get rid of the cat. So I'm just going to create a really cool, I'm not going to use the filled one, I'm going to use the outside circles. You can hold the shift key down and I'm just going to create this circle here. I'm just going to make sure that is slap bang in the middle there, and then I'm just going to zoom in a little, and then I'm going to use the line tool with a little red line here, and I'm just going to put a little, just holding the shift key down again, I'm just going to put a little crosshair right in the middle there of my sight. That looks rather cool over here on my canvas. Zoom back out again, looks pretty good. So I've got my sight. Now what I'm just going to use the rubber tool here, and I'm just going to block out a little bit there, a little bit there, a little bit there, and a little bit there. And actually I think I'll chop a bit out there as well. You can make the pattern whatever you want it to be for yours. I'm just going to make sure I've got a few gaps in there, because what we're going to do is just make this sight spin a little around to make it look pretty cool. So we've got our basic costume there. I'm going to call it my my sight. There. And I'm going to name the sprite sight as well, and that's the sight on my clay pigeon shooting rifle. Now for my scripts, we've got a really cool script that we're going to use here. So when clicked, I'm going to have here a little forever loop, which you've seen before, and then what I'm going to do is under motion you should have a go to with a drop down. And if you click on there and click on there, there's a new one here that's really cool. It's a random position. I don't want it to go to a random position. I want it to go to wherever the mouse pointer is. In fact, you can already see that working here as I move it around. But I'm also going to just turn the sight 5 degrees. So now when I click my green arrow, I've got my little gun sight moving around as I aim wherever I might want to shoot, which is pretty cool as I move that around. So I'm just going to click stop there, and then in parallel to that running, I'm going to be checking to see if I've got a little problem with my mouse here, it's a little bit sticky. I'm going to be checking to see if so I'm going to do a forever loop again, and I'm going to be checking to see if I am pressing the mouse down. So I'm going to use the mouse click to shoot. So I'm going to use the if statement there, and then there's a little option here. If mouse down, then do this. If it's not down, then forget about it and go through the forever loop again. So this is always 30 times a second going through this loop. Now, if I do press down, then I want to play a sound. Now I'm going to make a little noise here. So if I go to sounds, I'm actually going to record for me a sound that of a rifle shooting. Now many of you may not have recorded sounds yet, but if you have a little look at this, we will follow this through, and your microphone might need some adjusting. But I'm just going to click on record new sound, and then I'm going to click on the record button, and then it'll say, do you want Scratch to have access to your microphone? I'm going to say allow. It's now recording. And then I stop recording. So you can see there it's actually recorded this. Now if I play that, allow, it's now recording, allow. So I'm going to stop that. So I don't need this bit here. So what I can actually do is I can delete all that, and then I can delete all this like so. And now if I hit play, so click to the beginning, I've got my little gun noise. Now you can make it sound whatever you want, but I just wouldn't make it too long. I'm just going to trim actually this bit off there. So that's my gun. I'm sure you can do better than me, but I'm going to save that as gunshot, like so. And then back in my scripts tab, I'm now going to say play sound gunshot until done. So both of these elements are now running in parallel. So as soon as I click the green flag, it's always going to the mouse pointer and turning around, and then if I press the mouse button down, it'll play that sound until done. And with those two running in parallel, you get a lot smoother gameplay than if you were waiting for the sight to catch up to the mouse pointer whilst it was playing that noise. So we've got a nice little bit of parallel code going there. So let me click on the green flag. It started with a gunshot, and then whenever I click now, I get a gunshot noise. To stop that initial gunshot from going off when I click the green flag, I'm just going to wait a second there. So when I press the green flag, it's going to wait a second, and then I've got the stop. So I'm going to stop, play, and I don't get that initial gunshot. All right, so that's my sight coming together. Now I've got a bit of challenge to my creative genius, because I'm going to create a new sprite here, which is my clay pigeon. Again, you'll probably do better than I will, or you may actually go and get some sprites from some other areas. So I'm going to choose a circle to begin with, and I'm going to go to, they're going to be, I don't know, what colour's a clay pigeon? I guess it's clay, so I guess it's going to be a little bit brown, maybe even orange. Yeah, that brown will do there. And this time I'm going to do the filled in one, and I'm going to use the shift key again. Maybe not actually. No, I'm going to do a little ellipse here, a little bit like that. So it's over the center, like so, like that. And then what I'm going to do then is I'm going to use the select tool to just cut that across the bottom. Let me try that again. So click that, across here, it doesn't matter where you go, and then that's not too bad, is it? That's all right. And then what I might do is I'll just give it a little bit of a square bottom like that. That's nice. You know what? That is not gonna be far off. But let me just center that so that it's in the middle. And when you're drawing your sprite, it's always good to use that center tool and just click away from it, just to make sure it's slap bang in the middle. Now it's a little bit big, I feel, so I'm just going to shrink him down here to about there. That looks good. So that's my my clay pigeon. Now I'm going to call that clay. It's always good to give them user-friendly names, so when you're writing your code, you can refer to them nice and cleanly. So there's my clay pigeon. And in my scripts now, we're going to do this kind of random. So they're going to appear from the bottom of the screen and shoot off into the distance. So I'm going to start with when the green flag is clicked. I'm actually going to start by hiding it. So this there's going to be loads of them, so I'm going to use a clone of this rather than creating loads of clays. So initially I'm going to hide that one, and then forever, we've done this before, so you might be familiar with this, forever I'm going to wait a certain random number of seconds. So I use my operators to pick random in there. And I'm going to go, I'm guessing, yeah, and you can refine this. I'm going to go 2 to 4 seconds. You can always refine that. I accidentally double clicked on there, so pop that back. And then after that wait of 2 or 3 or 4 seconds, however long it's randomly selected, we're going to create a clone of myself. So that is going to create a new clay every 2, 3 or 4 seconds. And it'll keep doing that forever as we're playing the game until we tell it to do otherwise. And then I'm going to say, right, when I start as clone, Great block this. Clones are a really key to developing your games. I'm going to go to a random, it's still hidden, remember, so it's still hiding, but I'm going to go to a random X position. And that random X position is going to be somewhere between -100 to the left and +100 to the right. Okay, I'm guessing a little bit there, but I know I want to start it right at the bottom of the screen, which is -180. So it's going to be somewhere from here to here that it will shoot the clay pigeon. And you can adapt those and make your game harder or easier, depending how you want to. And then I'm going to point in direction, because I want it to go upwards. So choose up. And then I'm going to start with the clay pigeon a bit bigger because it's nearer to us. And then as it gets further away, it's going to get a little bit smaller. So I'm going to set the size that the clay pigeon starts to, and again I'm guessing, and you can play with this, but 130%. So it'll start big at the bottom, and then slowly as it goes further away, we're going to make it get smaller. And at this point, I'm now ready to show. What I need to do now is actually start moving it from the bottom upwards. And the way we're going to do that, because we're going to change this, we're going to add a variable here. I'm going to call this clay velocity. So you go up to data, make a variable, give it a name. The actual variable is only for this sprite. It doesn't need to be accessed by anything else. So choose for only this sprite and choose OK. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the initial velocity of the clay to, and again I'm guessing, I'm going to say about 20, and then we're going to start moving the clay sprite forward. So it's going to start fairly fast and then it's going to slow down, and we're going to just vary the Y coordinate, so it'll give the perception that it's flying away from us. So I'm going to use a repeat. Sometimes we use a lot of forevers, but in this case I'm going to use a repeat, because what we're going to do is basically say there's only a certain period when you can actually shoot the clay, when it's basically visible. So I'm going to do this 30 steps, of 30 times it's going to run this code. And the first thing it's going to do is going to start making the clay get smaller. So I'm going to change the size by, I'm guessing, but let's start with -4. And then change the Y velocity, sorry, change the Y coordinate by our variable clay velocity. So this basically says on the first time it goes, whoa, I accidentally clicked that. So if I press start now, and come off of that. Oh, there goes the clay. I just saw it moving off. I can just about see him up here, and he's flying up the screen. Okay, so we're almost there. We've got a few bits and pieces that we need to change. But this is basically saying at the moment clay velocity is 20, and then change Y by clay velocity. So to start with, the first time it goes through this loop, it's going to be moving 20, changing the Y value by 20, and it's plus Y, so it'll be going up the screen. But then every time it goes through, I'm going to change the Y velocity by -1. And again, I'm guessing there, but we can refine that as we go. And then once it's gone through that loop, I'm then going to delete this clone, like so. We don't need to rotate the clay, so I'm just going to make sure I've got that pressed. And now if I say go and have a look at what goes on, whoa, now that's not looking too bad, is it? So it's increasing slowly the Y value. Eventually it gets to the point where it starts going down, so it looks like the clay pigeon's dropping out of the sky, which is good because we're repeating this 30 times. We started with 20, so it'll start going down -10 as it goes through that final 10 repeats of that. So that's not looking too bad. The problem now is I can't shoot it because I haven't got any code, but I can get a feel for the gameplay as this progresses with that little bit of code. So our game's coming together. I've got a sight, I've got randomly firing clays, that I've got no code at the moment to actually detect whether I'm hitting the clay. Now if we're going to hit the clay, I need another variable. I need to have a score. So what I'm going to do, go back to data, make a variable, and I'm going to type in the variable score. I may need this from other areas if I want to work out what my high score is and that sort of stuff. So I'm going to make sure this is available for all sprites. Choose OK. And that's added my score here. I'm just going to move that here. Now actually, I don't need to see the variable clay velocity, so I can just untick that box. So that's hidden out of the way. So I've got a score. Now what I want to do now on my clay is inside of this repeat loop. So only when I'm actually inside of these 30 iterations of this code, I'm going to detect two things. One, is the clay touching the site? And two, is the mouse down at the moment that it's touching the site? So both of those have to be true to allow me to score my points. And if those are true, I've scored my points, and then I will delete that clone so it disappears. So I'm going to need an AND because I need both of those conditions, this one and this one, to be true for it to run this code. I keep clicking on my code and running it, but don't worry about that. So now I'm going to say if touching sprites. Remember, this sensing area is so key to making games. So if touch, oops-a-daisy, need to make sure I get that in there. Like so. If touching site and mouse down. So if both of those tests are true, then I'm going to get a score. So I go to score and I'm going to change score by 5. I'm going to give myself 5 points. And then I'm going to delete the clone, which is under control. So then delete this clone. Now what I've got here is repeat 30 times this code. If at any point while it's repeating that code, I'm touching the site, the clay is touching the site and the mouse is down, increase the score by 5 and then delete the clone. After those repeats of 30, I'm just deleting the clone. So if I haven't hit it during this period, the 30 times it's rotating through that, which is around about a second, then it's going to delete this clone. Now let's have a little run. So here one goes. So I'm going to miss that one. Didn't get a score, so it's not doing anything when it's just touching the site. But now I'm going to try shooting this one. Got it, and I got 5 points. 10 points. There's one flying. Make it a bit smaller. 15 points. So I can still get it when it's quite small, but if I miss it, I don't get it in time. It disappears off into the distance. All right, so that's coming together quite nicely now. I've got my shooting. I've got my check to see whether I'm touching the clays touching the site or whether the mouse is clicked down, and then the clays disappear either because they've gone too far because I can't shoot them anymore, they're off in the distance, or I shoot one and I get a score. So now I'm going to go down to my background, my backdrop, and we're going to write just a sort of give it a little bit of scenery, if you like, before we add some code. So if I go to my backdrop, I'm just going to click the rectangle and I'm going to give ourselves a nice green field. There we go. And then I'm going to give us a nice, let's have a look, nice blue sky, like so. About there, that looks good. Should we give ourselves a little sun? Using the shift key, I can put a little sun in there. We might have a couple of trees. I'm going to have a little tree here and a little tree in there. We might have a little pond. We'll have a little pond in here somewhere, like so. And then I think we might have some reeds or something in the pond. A nice little background. Oh, my reeds are not the best reeds in the world, but you get the idea. And then we need some leaves, don't we, on our tree? So again, I'm just gonna let's say we're somewhere nice. We've got some nice tall pine trees, like so. Somewhere nice and sunny. We're in the south of France, somewhere, I don't know. But there we go. So we've got a little tall pine there, and then we'll have another tall pine here, like so. Excellent. So we'll have a little bit like that. So we've got a bit of background, which is looking good. If I just press go here, we're now on the range. We've got our good. I didn't reset my score, so I need to remember to. Oh, missed that one. Well, that looks good. It looks like it's going over the horizon there as it goes further away. Oh, missed that one. I was pretty rubbish. Got that one. Good. So we've got our scenery, and now we need to put the sort of, if you like, the game rules in here. So how do we end the game? So I'm going to start with when the green flag is clicked. I'm just going to initialize my variables. I'm going to make sure that everything starts at the right point. So I'm going to set score to 0, and I'm also going to put a timer on it. So I'm going to, I need a new variable, make a variable time, because we're going to be timed until we get to 50. So I'm going to set time to 0. So that just makes sure that when I start the game, everything's all set to 0. And then I'm going to reset the timer. So this is an inbuilt bit of code that keeps track of the time as we go through the game. And now I'm going to go if, I need a forever loop here, because we need to be checking that the time's increasing all the time. So I want to do forever. Yeah, I've done that. And then I want to set my time variable. So set time to whatever the timer is. That's good. And then I want to see if, because we're going to have a point at which this game ends. So I'm going to say if the score is greater than, so if my score gets greater than, let's say 50, because we're scoring in 5s, we'll have to get to 55 to get to that. Then I'm going to just wait. Well, let's just stop all there. So if the score is greater than 50, then stop all. If I press go, I've got to hit a few here. So my time's going there. Oops, missed that one. Got to concentrate. You can see the time going along there. I got 5. So I've got to get 10 of these. That's 2. So I'm on 10 points. Oh, got 15. Got 20. I'm getting there. 25. 30. I'm on a roll. I'm sure you're better than me, though. Can I get another one? Oh, I missed that one. Or did I? I think I got it in the end. 40. So I should 45. 50. The next one should finish it. Yay, that finished. Now you could it actually stopped all that stop all code. Didn't let me hear that final gunshot. So I'm just going to put a wait in there just so we can hear the final gunshot. And I think it's worth us adding here. I don't need to see. Yeah, the time's good. I think that looks good. So I'm going to leave the time in the middle there. But I'm going to make another variable, best time, because I want to see who can get the best time for getting the 55 points. See how quickly. Then you don't want to miss too many. So I'm going to add a little bit of code inside of here. Another if that once you get beyond, once you get to the score, this gets a little bit tricky. You've got to be a bit careful. You can just about slide that in there, but then I don't want those there. So be a little bit careful with that. I want these two after the if, because then inside of here, I want to check to see if the current time is less than the best time. If that is the case, then I want to set best time to whatever that time was. So nice little bit of code, apart from, at the moment, we're not likely to beat our best time because it's 0. So there's a little trick you can do. If you just drag this set block here, and then let's put 100 in there, which will be 100 seconds. Then you double click on that. Then you initialize that best time. And then, I don't want to initialize the best time here every time, because I want the best time to be, remember how I was doing as I play from time to time. So let's see now how this goes on. But it looks, to all intensive purposes, as if we are ready to go. So let me go. Let's see how we go with that this time. So I've got my scenery. Oh, missed. I'm not very good. There we go. Now I'm on a roll. Must concentrate. There we go. That's 2. So that's 10 points. 15 on a roll. Oh, that was a longer wait in there. That was probably a 4-second wait. Forever. 25. Oh, missed that one. Got that one. 27 seconds, come on. 35, I've got to beat 100. Can I beat 100? Yeah, that's 40. Oh, that was rubbish, John. Concentrate. Oh, I'm not going to go to Tokyo at this rate, am I? Right, here we go. Yes, I'm sure you can beat my time. I'm on 46. There's 50. One more. Yay! So my best time is 49. My time was 40. So that was the time. Beat the best time. Therefore, my code works. What a cool little game. Didn't take us long to put together. We've only got 2 sprites in our background. On each of our backgrounds, we've got some neat little bits of code. So we've got our highest score code inside of here in our timer. We're initializing our variables at the beginning of the game, so they always start at 0. On our site, nice little effective piece of code here to always follow the mouse pointer and give that feeling of it spinning, which looks good as it moves through the air. And then we're checking to see whether we press the mouse. And then our clay is a really key sprite in this game, because it's set up a random amount of time before it fires, and then when it starts as clone, it's going to a random position at the bottom of the screen, somewhere between here and here, actually between these 2 trees, which is kind of cool. And then it starts big and then slowly gets smaller as it moves away. So it's going through this loop 30 times, adjusting the size, changing the Y velocity. It starts positive, so it goes up, and then slowly in the last 10, it'll start being a negative value, which means it starts to drop out of the sky. And then we're testing here to see if we're clicking the mouse at the right time when the sight's over the sprite, and then we're getting our score. Deletes the clone so it disappears, and deletes this clone. So I really hope you enjoy that game. Now, customize it, change it, see what you can do. Doesn't have to be clays, could be all sorts of things flying through the air. Could you get 2 clays going, do a double trap? Could you get 3 or 4, depending as the score goes up, all going at different times? You might have different ones coming from the bottom of the screen, and then others coming from the left and right. You've got everything you need in terms of the code to pull that together and add even more to it. So let your imagination go, and we'd love to see some of your shared games. So that's it from me today. Hope you've enjoyed it, and look out next month for a few more follow-along sessions and get you making some really cool games. Ta-ra for now.